editor for Human Events, nationally syndicated columnist. He has written a book called Obama's Four Horsemen, The Disasters Unleashed by Obama's Reelection. David, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
David, kind of ambiguous, your title to your book.
I wanted to keep people guessing, yeah.
Well, we wanted to see what you're driving at here exactly. And
well, Tim, I can give a good indication of what David, again, talking to author and columnist David Harsanyi, where he's coming from. His first book was titled Nanny State, How Food Fascists, Teetotaling Do-Gooders, Priggish Moralists, and Other Boneheaded Bureaucrats Are Turning America into a Nation of Children.
That was a title?
That is the title.
David, how'd you get that on a book, on the front of a book?
Small font.
That's a chapter.
Small font.
That's a chapter.
Well, you come right out and let folks know where you stand. There's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I think you should. I mean, I'm not trying to trick anyone here, and I think they may be surprised from where I'm coming from initially, but I think that in the end, they'll know where I stand for sure.
All right, let's talk about it. Obama's Four Horsemen, of course, using the apocalyptic biblical Four Horsemen as a way to draw people's attention. Sure got mine. The disasters unleashed by Obama's reelection. Give us an overview of what you're talking about here.
Well, I think that most of us talk about the problems that I do in the book. However, I think that a lot of Americans don't understand exactly how dire some of them are and how destructive some of them are and how corrosive some of them are to the fabric of American life and the idealism that makes us Americans, because it's not just about borders and the people who live here. It's about a lot more. So I think Obama, and I'm no fan typically of what Republicans do either, but I think Obama has done more damage than any president I could imagine in undermining our future. I'm not saying he's doing it on purpose. I'm not saying his intentions are bad, but in the end, I think we're going to face a lot of tough times to try to fix what he's finished.
Well,
not
David,
started, but finished.
Yeah, David, I know you're saying you're not saying he's doing these things on purpose. I disagree with you there, brother. I think they're entirely on purpose, most of them. Because the reason I say that is, he told us this before he was elected in 2008, that if he were elected, he would go about trying to, I think the word was fundamentally change America. And that's, when you say the word, not we need to do some things better, we need to, we need
Let's
to
build on what we have.
We need to take another path here, we've been doing some things wrong. No, I want to take out the foundation of what we have here and replace it with something else. Well,
I agree with that. I mean, I think he wants to fund. My point was, is that he doesn't want. I don't think he's trying to do bad. I don't think his intentions are to destroy America or to create bad things. Or I don't know what his intentions are. Is actually the correct way to phrase that. But yes, he fundamentally wants to change what America is about.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, tell us about the disaster. Your subtitle is The Disasters Unleashed by Obama's Reelection. I said before you came on the air, elections have consequences. Most people understand that who are listening to this program. And President Obama was reelected. I think, was it 51-49%? He won overwhelmingly in the Electoral College vote. But but you say there are disasters that are unleashed by his reelection. What are you talking about?
Yeah, there are disasters. I mean, we're not going to be Somalia or Afghanistan here. We're too good for that. We're too wealthy and too smart and all those other things. But we have, for instance, a debt problem. It's not just a debt problem that people talk about. Usually they mention $16 trillion in debt. But when you actually start calculating unfunded liabilities, the things that we've promised in the future that we already know we won't be able to pay, you're talking about $50 trillion and up of debt. So once interest rates go up, which they will, you're going to have to service the interest on that debt right now in your budgets. You're going to essentially create a debt bomb that will make, I think, sink the economy. I think cause havoc socially because so many people are dependent on government nowadays. And I think you're going to have some serious choices to make in this country, and it's going to be pretty ugly.
We'll talk about that for just a moment. I've mentioned here before, that President Obama doesn't give a rip about the debt. It's too hard to deal with. To make the cuts that are necessary would be unpopular. He got reelected. Everybody loves me. I got 3.5 years. I'm just going to play this thing out. I'll let the debt bomb explode on the next guy's watch because I don't care to deal with it. That's what he said by his actions. You disagree with that?
Not only do I agree with that, but I take it one step further and say that I think he actually likes debt. I think that he feels like debt spending, creating new money, in essence, monetizing debt, is a good way to grow the economy. I think it's failed for 4 years, but I think that he actually likes it, and the people on his team are not scared of debt. They actually embrace debt in some sense.
So what's plan B if that idea doesn't work?
Spend more. See, it's funny you mention that. With liberals, quite often, it's because they view liberalism as with religious devotion. When something doesn't work in liberalism, I'll take Head Start programs, for instance. What's the answer? Well, we got to spend more money on it. That's always the answer. So they can never admit their programs fail. Yeah. And that's plan B, more money.
Yeah, we're talking to David Harsanyi, who's the author of a new book, Obama's Four Horsemen, The Disasters Unleashed by Obama's Reelection. In some of the material that is released by your publisher, Regnery Publishing, it says that disaster is now unavoidable. Do you believe that? Do you believe that whatever, and you kind of touched on some of those things, and by the way, your four horsemen are dependency, debt, surrender, and death. We can talk about those in more detail, but the brief description of disaster that you just gave, do you believe that is unavoidable? There is no way for us to swerve and miss that pothole. We're going to go through. Well,
we're going off the Grand Canyon.
Sinkhole. How's that? So that you believe there's no way to avoid it. Our hope is in getting through it, learning from it, and changing course. Is that right?
Well, I mean, things can always change, and I say that in the book. You never know, and people who believe they know the future live in Washington, and they don't. So I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But actually, I live in Washington, but I'm one of the few who doesn't think.
Right, I understand.
But I just, the way things are now, I mean, let's think about the sequester fight we just had and how it was they tried to turn it into a national trauma, and it was, in essence, nothing. It was just a little bit of a slowdown in the growth of spending. Can you imagine when we actually cut spending, what's going to happen? I just don't see them coming together to do the things that are necessary. So I think we will hit those events that are going to be very ugly. Now, again, we could come out on the other side a better country. Unfortunately, usually it's the worst kind of people who take advantage of disasters to hold on to power. So I'm a little bit skeptical that things are going to get better, but I always have hope that they can.
Are you surprised, David? By the way, what is your website, David?
I'm editor of Human Events, so people can go there. My book is on Amazon or Barnes & Nobles, any of those sites.
Obama's Four Horsemen. Were you surprised, given, I don't want to reanalyze the presidential election in any down in detail, but I do want to ask you this as a journalist yourself and someone who's followed politics. There is no way President Obama should have been reelected by historical analysis
because of the state of the economy and unemployment.
The economy, the unemployment, the debt, the general unease among the American people. Obamacare, very unpopular, and that was his signature legislation that he passed in his first term. So, I mean, there was no reason why he should have been reelected. In the past, Americans have kicked
Jimmy
Carter out, and then they kicked George Bush out for the same reason, and elected Bill Clinton. And now Bill Clinton got a minority of the vote, I think 40-something%, because Ross Perot ran. But still, they kicked an incumbent president out because the economy wasn't doing well. And here, this guy, President Obama, horrible 4 years of economic
bad news constantly.
Yeah, and Americans said, I want some more of that. So how do you explain that?
Well, I guess two things. Well, three things. One, I think the Republican Party is in bad shape. They're simply not charismatic enough candidates. They don't have a strong enough message, a compelling message that will, convince people, to persuade people that they're right. I just don't think it's there, even if they are right. The second thing I think is that you have a different kind of American public. The electorate is different than it used to be because, three, they believe the wrong things about government. My parents were immigrants from Eastern Europe, from communism. They came here. They bought into what had been American idealism from the beginning, that you work hard, you can fail, it's up to you. You fail, then you have to deal with it, that sort of thing. Now there's a mythology erected by Democrats in this country that if government's not next to you every step of the way, you are going to fail, that it's not fair, someone's stealing from you, this whole populist, class war stuff. And it worked. And I think that is a scary thing for anyone who cares about the Constitution, because fairness is more important than freedom now. And that doesn't bode well for our future. I hate to be such a downer, but I mean, I know, that's a serious problem.
So you think that, I mean, if you were just to look at this to step back from an objective point of view, to me, you would have to say, and with all due respect to Governor Romney in his successful career that he's had, you would have to say you were a pathetic candidate if you can't beat Barack Obama.
I wouldn't say that to him, and I wouldn't. Listen.
What would you say?
He was the right candidate,
what would you say?
What's that?
What would you say? I mean, is that not right?
I don't know if, here's the point. I don't know if there was a better choice as a candidate in the end. I mean, I don't know who was supposed to run. I don't know, I don't know if we would have had a better candidate, that you would have done much better, because I think that most people, on some level it is sort of a popularity contest, but on some level, a lot of people don't pay attention. The people who know who they're going to vote for, it doesn't matter. But there's a bunch of people who don't pay attention, and I don't know.
All right. If I don't necessarily believe that Governor Romney was a pathetic candidate. I was being a little bit provocative there. I understand, but my point is, if that's not true, if Governor Romney wasn't a pathetic candidate because he couldn't beat a guy that had done so, poorly in his first 4 years, and a lot of experts thought that Romney would beat him. You remember all that,
sure.
And the historical records saying that Obama would lose. If that's not the case, it must be either ignorance of the American voters out there who went to the polls, and you got some of that, or the American electorate has shifted, as you just referenced, David, so that while we used to operate under the assumption that a vast majority of Americans had traditional American values when it came to government and less government and hard work and education and those kind of things, and less taxation, less regulation, that assumption is no longer true anymore. You have a 47%, to use from Governor Romney. You have a large segment of the American voting who reject that worldview of government anymore, and they say, no, we do want bigger government. We do want government takeover of health care. We do, and so when you're dealing with that, that's a different animal than trying to appeal to someone who shares your values, but they just want to pick the right person.
And David, that's your first horseman, isn't it? Dependency?
Yeah, I mean, everyone jumped all over Mitt Romney, including Republicans, because they don't want to believe the 47%. Now, I think Mitt Romney formulated it wrong. A lot of people don't pay taxes because they're old or young. They will, they have, that sort of thing. But it is indisputable that more and more people rely on government, either through cronyism of business, through the usual things that the welfare state provides, or jobs, or stimulus, or whatever, that they need government to be big. I mean, it's crazy to pretend that that's not a factor. And those people vote Democrat. And, the scary thing is that you might have lost the electorate for good. I'm not saying that that's the case. I don't know what the future holds, but I do.
No, for